It's like Death, Taxes, and AC/DC.
One of the most iconic albums of all time in both the songs and the artwork.
Like, hey, it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
Well, they've made what, like 16 albums that all sound the same? No, 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 no. They've made 17.
I always fill my ballroom. The event is never small.
Holy shit. Like, this is so ingrained in my head.
Whoa, here we go. Fucking Highway to Hell.
This album might just be like Bon Scott perfection.
I wish I could have seen AC/DC just once with Bon Scott.
Yeah, it was the best thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, fuck.
Like, how the fuck do you rank your children?
They set the foundation for all the hair metal stuff out there.
Here's Charlie. Yeah, you're very pretty, you're very nice, and you're very famous on YouTube.
Like, God, you were so much hotter in uniform.
And I'm like, fucking A, here we go.
Ooh, she's in a brown underwear too.
Sorry. My heart's kind of beating a little bit. Look, I came here to do two things: chew bubblegum and talk hair metal. And it looks like I'm almost out of bubblegum. Welcome to the Hair Metal Guru. My name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. And here's Charlie. Yeah, you're very pretty, you're very nice, and you're very famous on YouTube. Today, man, it's been a long time coming, because if you've been following the channel, you know that myself and Ryan are two of the biggest AC/DC fans around. And we have been talking, we've been doing this series. We just got done, I just recorded the last year, 1980, with Brian from the Hairband Basement. So, and it's been, Ryan, you were awesome doing that whole series, but we've been talking about, man, we got to do something solely focused on AC/DC. One of the biggest bands of the world, and maybe our favorite bands of all time. I know they're probably my favorite band of all time.
Yeah.
So, and I know Ryan's a huge fan. So, without further ado, Ryan, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me again. And hands down, favorite band of all time, favorite band forever and always. I probably listen to them every day. So this was one of those things where I was very excited to do, and they set the foundation for all the hair metal stuff out there. So I
Yes.
feel like every hair metal band out there probably can tip their hat to AC/DC and say thank you, and draw a little inspiration from these guys. So that's where I started. I was a young man when AC/DC came into my life, and it has never left. It's odd that I literally listen to the same albums I listened to when I was like 9 years old
Right.
today, but I get a little bit more out of it today than I did then. I get
Right.
differences. I notice different things, obviously,
Right.
lyrically, musically. So this band is simple, and that's what everybody loves about them. But obviously, if I can listen to them for this many years and get something more out of it every time I listen, then it says something.
Exactly. And just to get a little bit more specific, we're gonna turn this into a series, because today we are going to, and I'm gonna call this episode, for those about to discuss AC/DC, the Bon Scott years, because we are going to take the 5 AC/DC albums that they released internationally, because they did release the album High Voltage in 1975 in Australia and a couple other countries. Then the album TNT came out, but their releases in America started in 1976 with High Voltage, which was a combination of the TNT High Voltage albums. We're going to count Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, even though it was released in America in 81. It was still a 76 release, and it's a Bon Scott album.
Yeah.
We have Let There Be Rock, we have Powerage, and we have Highway to Hell. So we're going to go through each album. We're going to give our rankings. We have not discussed the order that each of us are going in, so it'll be a surprise. So
That's right.
Before we get into the rankings, would love it if you like, subscribe, all that shit. Sometimes I feel like I say that. I'll just look, do whatever you do. I just appreciate you being here. So I do have some AC/DC stuff. And It is some vintage epic shit. So I'll start with the newest piece. This is a Billboard magazine 1979 ad for Highway to Hell. It says an album worth selling your soul for. And I love this ad anytime I can find some vintage AC/DC in color. So there's one, then some other, and I think I have stuff from every album, but this is just shit that was in my house that it was easy to find. This is a vintage ad from Sounds magazine from Great Britain for Let There Be Rock. It is
Nice.
from it even I love shit that has the date on it. October 8th, 1977. You probably can't see that, but it's up there for the Let There Be Rock album. And I got that hanging in my bathroom. I don't know why. And oh shit, stuff's gonna fall. And the last one, this is from 1976 for the tour and for the album Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. It's got tour dates listed. And this is from October 10th, 1976. So
Nice.
anyway, I have an ACDC wall. I've been saying that I'm gonna like do a video on all the shit in my house. And so I'm gonna get on that, but I have like an ACDC wall that I think is kind of epic. So all
You
right.
know, for all the Highway to Hell haters out there because of the, hell connotation, I remember years ago, I had a high school teacher that was a big AC/DC fan, but he was also a big religious guy. He was a Christian,
Sure.
and he said, "I can't listen to Highway to Hell because of the hell part of it." And I said, "Dude, it wasn't a reference to the biblical hell. It
Right.
was the prior tour they went on,
Yep.
and it was such a and Angus, I believe Angus described it as a highway to hell.
Yes.
So, for all you religious fanatics out there, just in case you've disregarded one of the best albums of all time, it wasn't a biblical reference. It it was an expression for the fact that the tour they went on
Yeah.
was a hard time.
And he was talking about like, a lot you get done with the show. A lot of times you're up at 4 o'clock the next morning, you're in cars, you're in
Yeah.
buses, it's nonstop. I mean, they're on tour for 12 months, 14 months. I
Oh,
mean, I
yeah.
can't fucking, and you think it's a great time, but imagine, doing that for 14 months with the same five guys always close together. You
Yeah.
might go stir crazy, and you hear about bands that do. So, and yes, however, Ryan, I don't know if what about the song Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be? Maybe that's where they're, anyway, I'm just
Maybe.
kidding. I'm
That
just
might
kidding.
be the one.
All right. So, okay, 5 albums. We're going to go back and forth. We don't know what each other picked. Ryan is going to start with his number 5. I'm almost kind of a little nervous because I'll be honest. Even I just was telling Ryan before I hit record, I still I'm like, how the fuck do you rank your children?
I
You
know.
know, like these are like my kids, and to say, oh, one of them is the worst because you know, even fucking bad ACDC is still pretty good ACDC. Anyway, I just wanted to get that because guaranteed I'm gonna say something and and tomorrow I'm gonna be like, fuck, I should have put that album at number 2 or whatever. So okay,
I know that I'll go on record as well saying this and probably the entire part 2, 3, 4 will be the hardest that I've ever had to rank. And it is just like ranking your children. It's not fair.
yep, okay. Without further ado, kind of my heart's kind of beating a little bit. So, without further ado, your number 5 of the Bon Scott albums from the 70s.
Okay, well, again, all these I may be crucified for, and I apologize ahead of time. This is solely my ACDC expert opinion. But at number 5 comes High Voltage. I swear it's not chronological.
Oh,
It is High Voltage, originally 1975, but internationally, like you said, later on 1976. Two different album covers. You can get into that whole bit, but whatever. But this is one of my first Solo AC/DC purchased his, if I recall, and it was a long box. Remember the long box
Yes.
CDs? And
Yeah.
I'm kicking myself because I probably ripped the long box
Oh,
open,
shit.
threw it
Yes.
away, took the disc, played the
Yes.
CD, whatever. Man, what a mistake that was. There's my wife coming up to say hello.
Mrs.
um,
Mrs. RVK.
this is
How's
RVK.
it
I
going?
can show her. You want thousands of YouTube people to show you?
There you go. Get around. Hey, we need something a little bit better looking than us on here. So,
Oh, ooh, she's in a brown underwear too.
oh shit. Hold on, I'm gonna shit. Hey, nobody can see down below, right? Okay. Anyway. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. Anyway, keep going.
But um, anyway, so I'm gonna start it off with a little bit of a negative here. I gotta say, it's a long way to the top. It's a song that I don't play still, and it used to be huge with me when I was a young man, but these days I don't go to it that much when I crank this album, which I do often. I know I'm a dick about it, whatever. But now that I've got the negative out of the way, I'm going to say the rest is kind of like 70s rock foundation classic. Um, the version of the Jack is pretty cool. It's got alternate lyrics than what you hear on like um, If You Want Blood, You Got It Live, etc. It's kind of cool. Live Wire absolutely is a building epic Bon Scott killer. The Live from Paris 1980 Live Wire, very cool. They open with it. Very cool opener. Can I Sit Next to You, Girl is about as bubblegum as AC/DC
Yeah.
ever was. And it's probably because Dave Evans, their first singer who lasted about one single, did that. And then Little Lover and She's Got Balls aren't my favorite, but it's fine. They're like it's odd when AC/DC decided to incorporate some album tracks on the Fly on the Wall tour. They added She's Got Balls,
Yep.
and it was a very odd choice because it was a very secret kind of album track, and I wasn't really feeling it. But like any other AC/DC album, like any other AC/DC album track would have probably fit better on the Fly on the Wall tour than She's Got Balls. But anyway, much like Ball Breaker, they ended the album with the title track being High Voltage. And this is an amazing song, especially live. Both Bon and Brian do it so epic when they do the gimme high part and they keep going
Right.
and going and going and they get higher and higher. That part's epic. So the song High Voltage, I love. I've I guess, outgrown this album a little bit, maybe because it's TNT's played so much or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yep.
but, that's where I got High Voltage at number 5.
Okay. All right. Hey, by the way, I'm friends with Ryan on Facebook, and his wife is smoking hot. So, yeah. All
You
right.
know what? Like every firefighter, I fool all the chicks, and
Yeah.
I end up marrying one of them, and they're like, "God, you were so much hotter in uniform."
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that's what it is. All right. Okay. Um, well, okay. My number five, oh, took me a while. And so I want to kind of give you a little bit of my thought process. There might be albums that are lower that have more songs that I like than an album I rated higher. But if let's say an album that has four songs I really like, but two of my favorite songs of all time, it
I know.
might be ranked a little bit higher than an album that has six songs that does that make sense?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and I'm probably just trying to convince myself that it fucked this up. So, um, my number five, Charlie's over here. Come on, is I'm nervous to say it. I'm not nervous to say it. It's 1977's "Let There Be Rock," and I, I do think this was one of the easy. It's a great album, but I like to find out the sales figures and where it went on Billboard. This album only went to number 154 on Billboard, but two times platinum. That just goes to show you when Highway to Hell and Back blew up. everybody started going back and going, I need to fucking get that earlier stuff. How
Yeah.
can an album that only went to number 154 on Billboard go double platinum? But
That's
that's
it though?
strength.
That's
That's
it still is just 2 times?
right. So yeah, I mean, but still, an album that never went that high sold 2 million copies. But yeah, I get what you're saying, but
Yeah.
I'll get into the rest of them as well. So,
Okay.
um, now here's the great on Let There Be Rock. I fucking love the song Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be. I still can listen to that. Uh, sorry. Um, I like to put it on workout playlists. And so for the last couple days, knowing that we were going to do this, when I've been working out, I've been playing all the AC/DC albums. And how I decided, because I've listened to these albums so many times. So there are songs that I'll skip now. You're like, fuck, you know. So if I left it play, I'm like, damn. And here we are 40 years later or whatever, and I'm still listening to that. So
Yeah.
Ain't a Bad Place to Be is amazing. Whole Lot of Rosie, I still love. It may have been a little bit overplayed. They still play that in concert. I really like Bad Boy Boogie. Let There Be Rock is still fucking epic. It's so frantic and fast. I mean, it's almost like the beginning of fucking speed metal in a way.
Yeah.
And I really like Dog Eat Dog. Um, I love Problem Child, which also shows up in another album. And I think I said Dog Eat Dog is great. Overdose is Go Down is a very solid song. I love this album,
Yeah.
but it's only got Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be is the only one that I still like. Oh yes. The other ones, even though I love them, I kind of have gotten over them a little bit. So great album, but in the Bon Scott years, it's my least favorite.
Well, what a perfect segue. As usual.
Okay.
Number 4, I got Let There Be Rock.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't have a ton. I wrote notes about it, of course, but,
Yep.
I was gonna say more classics start to emerge, and Let There Be Rock, the song, like you said, was the closer until For Those About to Rock came along.
Yep.
So that song was legendary. Bad Boy Boogie, awesome. This live in 1978 on If You Want Blood, You Got It Live is absolutely Bond's wheelhouse killer. Problem Child appears on Dirty Deeds, like you said.
Yep.
Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be is one of my choice performances off the Donington 1991 album.
Mhm.
Um, and it's got Rosie, like you said, um, which is the epitome of like the Bon Scott humor, which I absolutely adore. Go
Totally.
Down, Doggy Dog, and Overdose are like the non-singles but classics on there.
Yep.
I love how you can. I Overdose isn't my favorite as well, but I like how you can hear like the strings slide and like the missed note on that song. You know what I mean? Like they
Yep.
left it in there intentionally. Really cool album title, and the video is super epic when Bond embraces the biblical sense in the Let There Be Rock video, and you could
Yep.
tell he's having a really good time.
Oh, totally.
He's happy. He's probably wasted as usual, but like of all people to pull it off, he does a good job of it. But it's this album might just be like Bon Scott perfection.
Sure.
So that's where I had Let There Be Rock at number 4.
Okay. All right. Yeah. It's again, is that your fifth? Is that your least favorite child? No, you love all your children, but something's got to come in. All right. So that was your number four.
That's right.
My number four. Okay. I This could have been number two. Uh, but it's Powerage from 1978. And it was the last album to be produced by Harry Vanda and George
Oh,
Young before they go on to Mutt Lang on the next three albums. It went to number 133 on Billboard. And this shocked me. You thought 2 million on Let There Be Rock. At least if you can trust the almighty Wikipedia, Powerage is only platinum. I find that hard to believe.
Me too.
Let's see if there's another. Okay, let's get into the good on Powerage, of which there is a lot. I still love Rock and Roll Damnation. That will I can still throw that into a workout playlist and be happy, when it comes on. I'm like, fucking A, here we go. Um, I still love Up to My Neck in You.
Oh yeah.
Um, and on a lesser extent, Riff Raff, Sin City, and Down Payment Blues.
Hmm.
Um, Gone Shooting, I really like. Kicked in the Teeth is okay. Give Me a Bullet, I wrote down as very good, but I didn't highlight it as amazing. So, um, out of all those, I think there are two that I Up to My Neck in You and Rock and Roll Damnation that I still regularly put in playlists. I can still listen to this album the whole way through, but there are songs that from time to time are I'll skip. I'll pass it on by. So um that's it's a great album. I love Powerage.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
love Powerage. Something's got to come in at number 4, and that's where Powerage comes in. So hurts my feelings to say it, but that's where it is.
Man, okay. I thought it might be either up there like mine or number one, maybe, but I don't have it there. I got Dirty Deeds coming in at number three. So I had to put this one from 1976, the original release internationally, if you will. But this is where I fell in love with Problem Child.
Yep.
It's still in my Bon Scott top 5 or 6 of Bon Scott vocals of all time. I don't know what it is about this song with him, but it's the perfect Bon wheelhouse again. I love it there. The lyrically, it's amazing.
Oh,
When they do it live on If You Want Blood, You Got It Live, and there's that part where Angus is coming out of the solo and Bon absolutely nails it perfectly and hits that, whoa, yeah, yeah, not like it hot. That part is so killer. He trails out of Angus's solo perfectly, and it gives me goosebumps just even talking about it, dude. But songs I love it for his feel. There's gonna be some rocking and ain't no fun waiting around to be a millionaire. Those are all again the wit of Bon Scott. But I will say, Ride On is one of my favorites, and I don't know how Bon Scott and AC/DC can pull this off, but they can go full low, low tempo blues and pull it off so well. I don't know how they do it, but this is one of the best Bon Scott songs of all time. But I will say I can do without Big Balls and Rocker.
okay. All right. So that's your number 3, right? Dirty
That's
Deeds.
it. Yeah.
Well, that's a good segue because my number 3 is also Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. And so, again, originally released overseas in 76, comes out in the United States in 81. And that's actually so the band was super pissed because the record label in America was like, no, this
Yeah.
is not going to work. So they shelved it. And ACDC almost thought, fuck, maybe we are fucked in America.
Yeah.
So anyway, all the great things happen. Well, so they release it in 81 when fucking Back in Black is riding high. For those about to rock is I can't remember exactly when, but comes out around the same time. It goes to number 3 on Billboard. Guess how many copies this has sold? 7 fucking million.
Oof.
So I think releasing it at that time exponentially helped the sales because to most fans, it was just a new AC/DC album.
Yeah.
And instead of something that so anyway, that's the sales shit. I still love Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. Any song about, all the terrible things that Bon Scott will do to you for a small price or do for you for a small price is really cool. Great lyrics. One of the epic AC/DC songs of all time.
Yes.
Love at First Feel is a solid song. It's not a favorite. I still, I mean, I just love the humor of Big Balls. To me, that, when you, Bon Scott, I always fill my ballroom. The event is never small. Okay. So many great one-liners.
Oh,
He was the king of the double entendre. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I should, because I taught English. Anyway, um, so many great lines in that I still laugh at it all the time. Um, Rocker is decent. I really like it. It's frenetic, up tempo, going crazy. Um, Problem Child is a damn classic. A
yeah.
great riff. Bon is on fire. I love when he says, I am hot, and when I'm not, I'm cold as ice. What a great line. Um, Ain't No Fun Waiting Around to Be a Millionaire. Great song. I think it's kind of underrated in the grand scheme of AC/DC. And I'm with you. I love Ride On.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you, and I get it, Angus Young once said, when somebody asked why they didn't do a ballad, he said, well, we did a ballad. It was called The Jack. Well, The Jack, but they kind of did a ballad on with Ride On.
Yeah.
And most people would say that's like not a very AC/DC type song, but damn, Bond just knew how he had to sing it. It just worked, and so I'm surprised we didn't get more of that. Squealer, I don't really need it in there. So
Yeah.
great album, comes in at number three. Something has to come in at number three. So there we finally agreed on something with Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap.
Yeah. And Right On, dude, it's one of those where a lot of these singers, like even Brian Johnson, if you hear him speaking in an interview, you wouldn't expect to hear his singing voice.
Yeah.
But Bon Scott, like Steven Tyler, you speak to him and you're like, "Oh, that's how he sounds when he sings."
Yep.
And Right On is the perfect example of that. And again, even though Bond wasn't singing about my balls are always bouncing to the left and to the right, this and that, his witty lyricism can be more serious
Yep.
as it is in Right On.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, everybody knows their true ballad attempt was "Oh Gene." I don't know if you ever heard that song, love song, "Oh Gene," whatever you wanna
Yes.
call it, in parentheses, ugh,
Right.
that thing was a mess. I'm glad they scrapped that idea immediately in 1975, and Right On was the closest thing, or The Jack, which is even more apropos. So here we are.
Right. And remember, it's my belief that my big balls should be held every night. Okay.
This
Anyway,
is
just
true.
kidding. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
So we're down to the final two.
that's right.
What is your number two album from the 70s?
All right, here's where I got Powerage coming in, 1978. A lot of people have chalked this up to be their favorite, actually. It's got a lot of Bon Scott hits on there, but a lot of Bon Scott favorites. Um, but I think it's the perfect setup for Highway to Hell. It's it's the solid album of album tracks. There's only really one song that they still play live in Sin City, and the rest are just really epic album tracks. I know Axl Rose, which is a era of AC/DC I'd like to forget, wanted to do Riff Raff, and he actually did a really good job of doing that. He hit all the notes.
Yep.
He did Touch Too Much and Riff Raff very well.
Yep.
Um, they did Down Payment Blues on the Ball Breaker tour, which I love. They ended Down Payment Blues and went right into the Jack, which worked out perfectly with that final note. But Down Payment Blues, Gimme a Bullet, and Up to My Neck are my choice songs on that album.
Yep.
Down Payment Blues has become one of my favorites, actually, over the years. It's another one of those witty Bon Scott. Lyrically, it's amazing.
Yep.
It's building. It's cool. It's bluesy, but it's hard rock still, just like they perfected in this era. So Powerage, the album artwork is cool. They went away from the typical ACDC, or sorry, ACDC
Yeah.
artwork. They started with in Let There Be Rock, and then they went back to that, lightning bolt looking electricity ACDC on Powerage. But anyway, a lot of people think that that's their favorite, but not mine.
Right. And so before we started this, when I was just thinking off the top of my head without looking into and re-listening, I was sure that Powerage was gonna be up higher. I had it at number 4.
Yeah,
Um, and like you said, talk to me tomorrow and maybe it'll be my number 2, but damn it,
yeah,
and yeah, there's so many epic songs. And when you read online, like I've read so many books and I read articles, and there's a lot of, and so when I was doing this research, a lot of musicians say that Powerage is the album that they're really into,
yeah.
that got them into AC/DC. So, I completely hear where you're at. But I was gonna say that I was actually, and these days I'm not the biggest Axl Rose fan, but I was pretty impressed with how he handled the gig when he sang in those concerts. So
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm not a big Axel guy, but he
oh,
hit the right notes.
yeah,
He did Hell's Bells
yep,
exactly how it should be, etc. I
yeah,
don't want to admit it though.
yeah, yeah. I
Especially
have,
because my best buddy is a big Guns N' Roses guy and
right.
can't stand AC/DC, and I'm vice versa. So I
Okay.
I can't agree with him. We're meant to be rivals.
All right. So my number 2, again, it's subject to change in the future of my life, but it's High Voltage. Uh, and so again, this is 1976, the international version. It combines songs from a previous High Voltage album and an album called TNT. And and here's this may be a reason why I had to put it at number 2 is, unlike you, because I don't know what the fuck's wrong with you. Uh, it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll is one of my favorite songs ever. I love that song. I loved the bagpipes in it. I'm like, why the fuck did more bands not put bagpipes? I hate horns in metal, but damn it, that bagpipe is just perfect. Um, Even still today, like if something, you know, if I'm coaching basketball and the kids are struggling with the drillers, sometimes I'll be like, hey, it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. All right, like push through. We gotta keep going. I love that song. Now after that, it's not as, but that song helped put it to the top. So
Oh
even
yeah.
I agree with you. TNT has been so overplayed, but I tried to take a step back and go, in the grand scheme of things, I do love the song TNT. It's a great song. I still oi anyway, look, I still do love that song. Yes, it is overplayed. Live Wire, I think, is great. It's got an awesome riff. So that's great. I like rock and roll singer. I don't know that I love it or worship it, but I'm not, I like the Jack. I find myself passing it by these days. I'm kind of with you on Can I Sit Next to You, Girl? I don't really need it. Little Lover is a song that is just not my thing. I'm not into this. I like Ride On, but here where that slow bluesy riff just doesn't work for me. She's Got Balls. Hey, how about a song that's appropriate for these times? He's got balls. You never know these days. Not really my thing. I love the song High Voltage. And so that is why earlier in the video I said, hey, there might be albums that I put higher that have less songs that I love, but damn it, I still, it's a long way to the top. If you ask me to name my top 3 or 4 favorite AC/DC songs of all time, it would be in my top 3 or 4 favorite AC/DC songs. So that helped push it to number 2.
Very good. And by no means am I backpedaling. I'm just gonna say there's songs that come in and out of my life, like "You Shook Me All Night Long,"
Yep.
"Living on a Prayer," "Same Old Situation." I kind of love and then go away from for a minute
Yep.
and then come back to, and I go, "Damn, why was I ever down on this song?" And
Yep.
it might have been just oversaturation for me a little bit, but this is one where I used to absolutely, like, rip to when I was a kid, and then I just went away from, and I don't know, maybe it is the bagpipes, who knows?
Yeah. Right. And I've always had an infatuation for songs about the road.
Yeah,
Like I love "Wanted Dead or Alive" by Bon Jovi, like, oh, here's the highs and lows of the road. And hearing
yeah,
Bon Scott talk about getting screwed over after concerts, and all the things that happen while you're traveling, and I'll just throw this out there right now, like, one of my big fucking regrets in my life, it never could have happened, but damn, I wish I could have seen AC/DC just once with Bon Scott.
yeah, I know,
Oh,
and so real quick, there's a civic auditorium that's attached to the fire station that I work at. It's downtown Santa Cruz, Station 1, and the civic is literally one with the fire station. So we hear all the concerts.
yeah,
If we want to go see a concert, we go in through the back door. Well, on the Highway to Hell tour, AC/DC played the Santa Cruz Civic Auditorium. And a lot of the guys that when I first got hired, were hired in like the late 70s, early 80s, and they saw AC/DC there. And when they got to know me and they realized what an obsessive fan I am, they're like, "Oh, dude, by the way, I saw AC/DC in 1979 on the Highway to Hell tour." And I'm like, "Oh, really? Just a by the way?" And they're like, "Yeah, it was the best thing I've ever seen in my life." And I'm like, "Fuck, dude, this is so
yeah,
killer." And so, like, you know, you ask me any given band, like, "Oh, did they play this song?" I'm like, "I don't really remember, dude." Like, I wasn't drinking or whatever, but, like, I don't really remember if they played, like, that song. But these guys recall so much shit from that show, and they said it was so wild and so epic. Perfect example of what you're saying, like, God, I wish I could have seen that in my hometown in, like, I
yeah,
don't know, 3,000 seat place. God, that would have been so killer. But I didn't.
yeah. By the way, when I went to concerts and I didn't remember shit, it was generally because I was drinking and I was hammered. So,
Well,
okay.
those were the country shows. I went for an entirely different reason for country. I don't know any of the country artists that I saw. I just know what I was there for, and it
Ah,
was because I was drinking, but that was a very appropriate
right,
reason.
right.
Those are my
All right.
single days.
Yeah, okay, of course, of course. Okay. Okay. All right. So we're on to number 1, and it looks like we're gonna have some agreement here. Ryan, why don't you go ahead and tell us about your number 1?
All right, man. Well, okay, it's the classic from 1979, and how can we deny this? It's perfect. The first of the Mutt albums, one of the most iconic albums of all time in both the songs and the artwork. When I was a kid, my dad had "If You Want Blood, You Got It" live, "Highway to Hell," and "Back in Black." Now, my dad was born in 47, so he was 31 when "If You Want Blood" live came out in 78.
Yep.
So he was a relatively young man. So he had those 3 albums. So when I was born in 81, I would, as the years went on, I would kind of rifle through his collection, and I would just sit there and stare at the "Highway to Hell" album cover, just tripping out, looking at, like, It was probably inappropriate, to be honest. Like I probably like I don't even know if I would let my 4-year-old look at the Highway to Hell album cover. I probably would because she needs to know how killer it is. But you know, Angus looks like a fucking monster. Malcolm looks crazy.
I'm just gonna
But I
get
used to just stare at that shit. And I had, yeah,
this is
there
one of
you go.
my
And I
all
would just perfect. And I would just stare and be like, who are these monsters? This is great. But like, it's timeless, dude. Even in 2024, it's timeless. Back in Black, well, Highway to Hell, Back in Black, and For Those About to Rock have the most epic blend of that hard driving but smooth sound. And I don't know how else to explain it. I think it's the drums and the rhythm guitar that are like the smooth, if you will, but it's still so hard and killer. Um, let's just say this, like I can consciously start playing Shot Down in Flames in my head, and like 10 minutes later, I'll realize that like and probably like in perfect time that my subconscious was still playing the Highway to Hell album, and I'll be like halfway through Love Hungry Man.
right.
And I'm like, holy shit, like this is so ingrained in my head that I was probably playing it in perfect time. Not because I'm killer and like I'm like Mr. Perfect musician time guy, but
Well, you
because
are. You
well,
are.
yeah, some may say,
Lead
but
singer of Metalcast, by the way. Check out the fucking new single. Just promoted.
but it's really because I've listened to this album probably 3,000 times, you know? So like um I don't care how predictable it is to have Highway to Hell as number 1. There's
Yeah.
a reason for it. There's a reason for its success. And there's not a single dud on this album. I'm not even going to go ahead and like mention all the songs
Yeah.
because they're all killer. There's nothing wrong with this album. It's perfect.
And so like we've so yes, it's my number one. We talked about how the other albums are amazing too. But in reading about this, this was the first time. So Mutt Lange was the producer, and Mutt Lange was always known for his attention to detail and going, just tightening the screws and fixing little things. So the band was like, shit, they were in the studio for like 3 months. And they were like, man, in our old albums, we used to be done in 3 weeks. So
Yeah.
and those albums were so good, you wonder what would have happened if they would have had a Mutt Lange producing the early. Anyway, this album is practically fucking perfect. And I
Yeah.
know when we do the 80s, we'll get into Back in Black, which is, like the second best selling album of all time,
Right.
basically.
Heard of that one.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Uh, so Highway to Hell only went to number 17, but it's I guess 8 times platinum by now. I'm shocked it's not at 10.
Yeah.
Um, and I won't go through all the songs but I'll just mention a couple. The title track I do not get tired of.
No.
Though that opening guitar riff immediately perks my ass up and I'm like, whoa, here we
Mhm.
go. Fucking Highway to Hell. And I said I fucking love songs about the road. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know, for some reason, sometimes it reminds me of like deploying with the army, like being in Iraq. It was horrible. It was hell. But I also now look back on it fondly, like the people that you were with, and you're like, oh shit, it was that long year, and I can see bands doing that after anyway, for some reason, maybe that's a bad comparison. And I still, if you want blood, you've got it. God dang. That is one
Dude.
of the best songs of all time. I still put that on workout playlists all the time. Holy
Oh,
shit.
yeah.
It's perfect. And
It
many
is.
shot down in flames, all girls got rhythm. Anyway, um, I and so now that we're kind of wrapping up, I'll say this. You know, Back in Black came out and I was either 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And for most of my, I always remember Back in Black being played, like like when we were playing basketball or something, or whatever. It was just always on, it seemed like, and I loved it. So I grew up thinking that I was a Brian Johnson guy.
Yeah.
And I love Brian Johnson, AC/DC. But years later, you're kind of like, oh yeah, I knew Highway to Hell's a great song, but it wasn't until years later where I was like, you know what? I gotta go listen to all those fucking albums. I was probably in my 20s or something.
Yeah.
And go out and buy all the CDs. And so I learned that holy shit, maybe I'm a Bon Scott guy, and
No.
maybe it depends on the day. But and there's something to be said about, the guy died and he was only what, 31 or something, or 30. And so like him, Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, yet they never got old, and you never saw him start putting out shit that you're like, okay.
Yeah.
He went out on top.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking his peak performance was his last album. So the guy's a fucking legend. I I have books about, I have books, every book about AC/DC, but damn, there was a great book about Bon Scott that came out a few years ago. I can't remember what now, it's downstairs. Loved it. So I just, anything that I can get that has Bon Scott on it. Anyway, now I'm rambling, but yes,
Oh, dude,
what an
you can
album.
ramble all day about Bond, and same with me. Because when I discovered AC/DC, unbeknownst to me, because I was obsessed about Highway to Hell album cover as a toddler, when the Razor's Edge came out. So I thought I was a Brian Johnson guy because that was my introduction. But then, with my influence of my brother, my brother-in-law, my dad, all being more of a Bon Scott traditionalist, I was immersed in the Bon Scott era initially,
Yep.
short of Razor's Edge. So I was all about that. And then I kind of went through the years. But about Highway to Hell, back to the album itself, If You Want Blood, You Got It, the song, it's hard for me to say, I have a favorite AC/DC song. It really is. It's very difficult for me. But if I had to choose a few, it'd be like Sink the Pink, If You Want Blood, Shot Down in Flames, Down Payment Blues. Like, very tough. But If You Want Blood, thank God they changed it. Because have you've heard like the demos of If You Want Blood? Because
Yeah, yes, it's been a long time.
you know how it all comes together because it's just drums and guitar intro,
Yep.
and then Bond comes in, "It's criminal," and he comes in, boom, on the drum beat. Well, they did the typical, like, build up, boom, drum beat comes in, full drum comes in with guitar, and then Bond starts. Thank God they changed it. It's
Yeah.
like listening to the demos of, like, Kickstart My Heart and Doctor Feelgood. It's like, "Oh, thank God you guys changed that shit."
Right.
Same thing. But If You Want Blood is the most, like, pump up,
Oh,
kick in killer songs. Love Hungry Man, like, that's one of those, it's almost like a pop song. Same with Touch Too Much,
yeah.
and that's the Mutt Lange thing going on there. And then you got Night Prowler, and the fact that Bond could talk about, walking across someone's grave and this and that. Oh, dude, it's so creepy and killer the way Bond does his voice in that song, and then his last lyrics on record are "Shazbah Nanu Nanu." It's it's very fitting, but there are some AC/DC completists out there that don't care for Bond's vocal tone on this album, because if you notice on this album, they're kind of like, I don't want to say deeper, but they're like a little bit thicker than they were,
Right.
like, say, even on like Up to My Neck and You from
Right.
Powerage. It's like he has that really kind of high pitched Bon Scott thing going on. And even on the demos on Bonfire, listen to the demos on Bonfire of anything off Highway to Hell, and his vocals are very different. Um, Not
Okay.
to say that it's a bad thing,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, like, Mutt did something to him on this. I don't know if it was in the studio, uh, post recording or during the recording, and told Bond like, "Hey, let's switch it up and do it this way. Let's not go so high and squeaky." I don't know what it was, but it worked.
When I was reading in preparation for this, and some of the stuff that I read was about Mutt Lang saying, like, Bon Scott, I don't know what song it was singing, and it was coming off a little bit more breathy than
Yeah,
Mutt Lang wanted it to be. And he kind of, talk, and apparently Mutt Lang's like a professionally trained singer. Like, he
yeah,
does background vocals on almost all the albums and shit. So
yeah,
he worked with them and made a change on this. So that's maybe the change that you're talking about, was Mutt
yeah,
Lang tweaking a couple things to get him to make the sound that he want. I'm
yeah.
probably saying that wrong, but you know what I'm saying, like, worked with him. So
Oh yeah,
yeah.
totally.
Um,
And let's not forget the sad little sleeper, "Get It Hot." That's like the redheaded stepchild of this album. It's like a 2 minute and change song, but it's so fucking good,
Oh,
dude.
I fuck it. That's one I highlighted that, there was
Yeah,
the only songs that I didn't highlight as like, oh fuck, are Night Prowler, which I like, but it's kind of slow and bluesy. Most people know that's not always my bag, and Beating Around the Bush.
yeah,
The
I,
only two that the other ones I highlighted them as, you need this shit in your life.
yeah. I don't know what it is about beating around the bush, but I feel like it's a little bit too like punky and fast for AC/DC
Yeah.
on in that vein. I
Yep.
still love it, but it's probably my least favorite song on the album. I don't know why, but
Right.
it's still it's still a 9 out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's still fucking, yeah. Okay. Hey, uh, we are going to continue this series, so I'll try to get this out. But we're gonna do the 80s, we're gonna do the 90s, and we'll fucking talk about AC/DC till the cows come home. So please tell us in the comments. Charlie's no, no, yeah, you're so pretty. Please tell us give us your order. Okay, tell us Bon Scott years, 5 through 1, what you pick. Tell us, how we fucked it up, but damn it, you just can't go wrong with this band. And I've said before, like, I probably put more money into Kiss, because Kiss just puts out so much worthless shit that I just buy it. But there's never been a band that I've loved like AC/DC. And they are, while other bands were chasing trends, even when things weren't going that great, maybe people say there's a dark period in the 80s. They just kept doing what they fucking do. And you can count on them. It's like Death, Taxes, and AC/DC.
That's
So,
right. Well,
Ryan,
they've made what, like 16 albums that all sound the same? No, 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 no. They've made 17 that all
that's
sound
right. That's right. Ryan, thanks a lot for being on and talking about AC/DC, brother. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Hey, would love it if you come again. Tell us your order. If you're new to the channel, we talk about this kind of shit: hair metal, heavy metal, hard rock, anything from the greatest musical generation of all time. Would love it if you subscribe, all that stuff, anything you can do to help the channel, whatever you do. I just appreciate you being here. My name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. Take care.